to Durbania. I'm Durbin, and we are going to review Scrooged. And I say we because I have a very special guest with me right now, Rachel Wagner. How you doing?
Hi!
She has a fantastic channel, and the link to that is in the description. I've done a couple videos with her on her channel, talking superhero stuff and all kinds of cool things. Rachel, tell us a little bit about yourself and your channel.
Yeah, so I have Rachel's Reviews, and I review subscription boxes, but then mostly also movies. And I have a love for animation. Is kind of my favorite Disney and animation. And also, I love A Christmas Carol. I've loved it ever since I was a little girl. I go to see the play every year. It's part of my tradition, and I read the book every year. It's one of my favorite books, and so I actually, on my blog, 54 Disney Reviews, in 2014, I reviewed 35 different versions of Christmas Carol. So
wow, 35.
And a lot of those were only
insane.
about half hour, but it was a lot of fun, and yeah, it was really cool. It was kind of like getting a prompt, a writing prompt, where everyone has to write on the same thing, but you get all these different versions of the same prompt. And so it was sort of interesting that way to see like this base story and how all these different, everything from Smurfs to Muppets to, you know, traditional to whatever, how they took it and played with it. So yeah.
Let's talk Scrooged. This has always been one of my favorite Christmas traditions to watch this one. And I don't know, just something about Bill Murray and his bigness, it always captured my attention as a child. I thought he was hysterical. It was my introduction to the story of A Christmas Carol. So let's just start with you. Like, what are your initial thoughts in reviewing this movie?
Yeah, you know, it's interesting because I look at, there's sort of the non-traditional versions of Christmas Carol, and then there's the traditional versions. And I'm fine with either. I'm not a traditionalist when it comes to this story. And clearly this is a version that would be in the non-traditional camp. But I think it hits most of those boxes as far as Christmas Carol. It has the three ghosts, it has Jacob Marley character, it has a Bob Cratchit character, it has all of the major sort of things you need for a Christmas Carol story. And so it gets that heart, I think, that you need in Christmas Carol. It has that core redemption, it has that core story. But then it also includes all of this commentary about media and the way that censorship is done and the way that marketing decisions are made and all that stuff, which if you're somebody who is somebody who watches a lot of movies or watches a lot of TV or whatever, I think you'll find that very, very funny. And also just a lot of the sort of the gags as far as just a lot of the sort of gags where they take a certain personality type and then making it sort of a little bit different than you think. Like somebody like Carol Kane, who's supposed to be all sweet and lovely and wonderful, but she's super violent. So they sort of take what you expect in a certain character type and then sort of twist it, and that's where you get the humor.
Yeah, and I thought a lot about that too, and what you said about the media and the censorship, because I read your blog about Scrooge right before I watched it this afternoon to do this video. And it's funny because I've worked in radio and television, and that's kind of what I've done for a lot of my life. And so what's interesting is watching Bill Murray interact with his boss, like the head of the network. And, you know, Bill Murray has got his own insane plans for the network, his own insane plans of how he wants to market Scrooge, his own philosophy of how doing a super violent thing will make people afraid to miss it. But then you got his boss, who has this strange idea of let's market this to animals because they're the future and science says that they're starting to watch TV. So maybe throw in some dormice into this or something like that. I'm just like, I've done that.
That's one of the funniest moments in the whole movie when you have the little mouse and he's like, just staple the antlers to the mouse.
Yes, and his girlfriend's like, don't you dare staple that mouse.
Anything with the censor I thought was hilarious because the whole MPAA and the whole system we have for censorship or however you want to call it for marketing, I guess, for pointing out, not marketing, for rating content is so insane and so stupid that I think that those moments really just made me laugh, you know, that the idea of the, you know, whether the person had too much cleavage, you know, and too much, you know, things is just, the way that's handled, I just think is hilarious. And, you know, it's made by Richard Donner, and I think it holds up very well. I think the makeup holds up well. I think the special effects hold up well. And it's just an overall, I think, pretty entertaining little movie. There are a few little, nitpicks I have with it, but overall, I think it's very enjoyable.
Yeah, I got some nitpicks with it too, and we'll get into those in a minute. My positives with this movie is like what you said. It's pretty timeless because number one, it has the timeless story. A Christmas Carol is just a timeless story. It's just that awesome story of redemption, representing the worst of the worst, and that there's still redemption even for the worst of the worst. And there's this hope for them, and watching that soul get saved and the light enter their heart. It's just it's an awesome story, and so that makes it timeless. But like you said, the special effects, like 80s special effects, they're very dated. But this one just didn't use that many. It was very simple with what it did. It was very fun with what it did, and I really enjoyed that. And like I said, when I was a kid, Bill Murray, my favorite part of this, he was hysterical. I loved how he portrayed this character. I loved the way he pulled it off. And I loved all the different characterizations of the ghost. Like our Jacob Marley character, I thought he was really hilarious, especially when Bill Murray's like shooting him like crazy when he walks in the office, and then he drinks his scotch or whatever it was he's drinking, and it just comes out of him in the holes, like, in his body like a cartoon. And, I don't know. As a kid, I thought that was great, and the golf ball coming out of the back of his head. Christmas Past was the most detailed they went, and I thought they did a great job. Like, I was watching it this afternoon, and I kind of forgot about this, and I was really surprised at how detailed they went into it. Like, he's hardcore a business guy. He's a workaholic, and his career path has totally taken over everything. Whereas Scrooge in the 1800s, he's all about money. This guy's all about his career, and he's chosen his career over love. He's chosen his career over everything. And I thought it was really interesting that you get to see his dad, who was driven that way, and gave him a piece of veal for Christmas. And he's like, yeah, I hear lazy bums all day that I can't work because my feet hurt, my back hurts, I'm just a child. And it's like, you could see how that rubbed off on him. And then he couldn't even enjoy a Christmas party, as we see, because he's just such a workaholic. He doesn't want to be having a party when he could be getting work done. And so when he becomes the president, there's no more Christmas parties and things like that. So it's very interesting as they got into the details of his past to see how those things from his childhood rubbed off onto his character. And I thought it was a good modernization of the Scrooge character and how that would fit in our time. And so things like that I thought were very positive. I loved the Ghost of Christmas Present, and she was hilarious how she beat the living snot out of him over and over again. That was great. But we also got to see how his life choices were impacting everybody here and now. And so I just thought, like, they did a really good job showing that. And then the Ghost of Christmas Future, we got to see how the seeds he's sowing in the present becomes this horrible harvest he reaps in the future. So I thought, like, in those terms, like, it was really great. On top of it, it continued to be funny. And did you notice, I don't know if you've ever watched Smallville, but did you notice that the boss trying to get Bill Murray's job was Lionel Luthor?
Yeah, that's true. I hadn't thought of that. You're right. Yeah. I think that, it's interesting. I think that Bill Murray actually used his brother to play his father when he's a child scenes. And so that really works. Like, you feel that closeness. I don't know. It just adds to that tension. And one of the things I appreciate is that I appreciate in Christmas Carol when there's no attempt to kind of give sort of a wink in the eye of Scrooge. There's no attempt to sort of soften him at the beginning. I think that in the case of this, they do a really good job with that, actually. He is brutal. He's tough. And so it makes it all the more sort of funny when you see Carol Kane slapping him.
It is hilarious.
Because she's just saying, like, get with it, what's wrong with you, like, come on. And because in truth, Christmas Carol is not just about somebody that has cut off a happy time in their life, like, that wouldn't be that big a deal, but it's about somebody who's cut off Christ from their life, cut off religion, cut off whatever you want to kind of think to give anybody any kind of meaning. And in the book, he is described as just a complete sniveling, awful, covetous old sinner. Like, he's not described at all as being likable at all. And so I really appreciate that here, that really he's just awful. And I think the character the best shows that is the Bobcat Goldthwait character, Elliot. I think that character is so funny. And And, you just feed off that sort of desperation of, like, that's it. I've hit the end of my rope, and I just go crazy.
And he shows up with a shotgun singing Christmas carols.
But then you also get, like, sort of the moments of heart, like Alfre Woodard, who's always great, I think, in anything she does. She just is a wonderful, underrated actress, I think. And here, she's sort of the Bob Cratchit character, and her son is sort of the Tiny Tim character. And so you get kind of all of these moments that work because they make him so bad. And they embrace that. And
that's what I agree with you in that whole thing about Scrooge. I love that you see him and there's nothing redeemable about him, which makes the redemption story all that more miraculous and all that more awesome, because you're watching somebody that's virtually unredeemable be redeemed. Yeah. And through all the comedy and all of that, they didn't lose that heart with Scrooged, and that's what I liked. Like you said, Bill Murray, he's a jerk. But then as he gets faced with why he's bad and the scars of his past, being faced with what he's doing now, how it's affecting those around him, and then seeing the future, what he's going to reap through those actions, those are all just such powerful images for me. And I loved how Scrooge, it was hilarious. It kept it light throughout the whole thing, but it never abandoned the heart of what A Christmas Carol is. And that's what I really liked about it.
Well, and also they're filming a live broadcast of Christmas Carol while this whole visit, all the visits are going on, which I think adds to a lot of sort of humor, and there's a lot of winking kind of going on. And so that's really enjoyable. And yeah, overall, it has a lot of laughs. It's got a lot of heart. It's well made. The special effects look good. And so it's a very enjoyable comedy. A lot of people describe it kind of similar to Ghostbusters, and I can kind of sort of agree with that, actually, that it has some of those same elements of sort of the Ghostbusters.
I actually never thought about comparing it to Ghostbusters. It kind of does have that vibe, just a little bit. Well, if you had nitpicks about this movie, what would your nitpicks be?
I think my nitpicks are with Karen Allen character. I think that I don't know, it doesn't really work, some of the choices that she makes. The fact that she would go so quickly back to him, that she would be following what he's doing, that she's sort of so invested in him. I don't really think that really works. I mean, the Belle character, she's supposed to be somebody that sort of feels sorry for Ebenezer, but has moved on with her life and has married and had children and things like that. And that to me makes a lot more sense for her character. And so that's the biggest miss, I think. And sort of, I think the ending speech, I get a feeling that they let Bill Murray kind of improv maybe more than they should there. And so I don't think it quite has they do a good job with the crazy Scrooge, because that's where you kind of have, with the ending of Christmas Carol, you have crazy Scrooge who's, ordering the turkey and whatever, the giant goose and going nuts. They do a pretty good job with that, I think, but they don't do as good a job sort of pushing through that sort of that emotional sort of message at the end. It doesn't quite work, and it just didn't sort of bring back some of the emotion of the Alfre Woodard character, or his experiences with his father, or there's certain things they could have sort of brought up and gone kind of full emotional at that point. And they just kind of, it was a little too silly, a little bit too, I don't know. It just didn't quite work as far as the ending that you need for Christmas Carol.
Yeah, I think I agree with that. Because the thing that was powerful about the actual traditional story is he doesn't give some big speech. He actually goes out and does good. Like, he goes out and he gets the turkey for Bob Cratchit. He goes to his nephew's Christmas dinner. Like, you don't hear him talk about manning up. You see him man up. And you see the weight off his shoulders. And I think that's what I like better about the traditional story over this one, because I get, with this one, it's a little bit harder to show him, like, say, oh, go buy the biggest Thanksgiving turkey and this, that, and the other. So they have to come up with some way to show you that he's changed and he's different. But I don't think that dude with the shotgun in the booth having a hostage crisis situation up there that would surely get the police showing up and Bill Murray in jail for the rest of his life and things like that while he gives some big Christmas speech. Just don't feel like that is quite the way to do it.
Yeah, I mean, they should have had him go to the shelter and then, serve and maybe have a conversation with
Perfect,
the Karen Allen character and say, I've been wrong my whole life. I thought it was all just about the ratings or just about, getting a promotion or whatever. But I realized I could use this platform to do something good and to spread a good message or just something like that.
Yeah.
That, I realized that I've been wrong and I'm sorry. And that's kind of what we needed, but we didn't quite get.
Yeah, I agree with that. And my negatives with this movie are kind of nitpicks too. Like, when you go through the three ghosts, I liked the Ghost of Christmas Past. You got a lot of Bill Murray's past. You got to see a lot of what defined him as a character and how he got there. A few of the weaknesses in that, though, like what you were saying with Claire, what they did a really good job was establishing how they fell in love. And, it's one of those things that warms your heart as you're watching it, where he gets the nickname Lumpy by the door smacking him in the head, and he falls down and hits his head on the sidewalk, and they hit their heads bending down to pick up some of the stuff she drops. So, a lot of great stuff like that. What they didn't show was them drifting apart. I mean, you get the idea through the lines, like what's going on, that, when he's dressed up in that big dog costume, he cares about that show, he cares about advancing his career, he cares about going out to dinner with the boss rather than with his girlfriend and their friends. You get it through the lines, but you didn't actually see them drift apart. And I get it, it's a comedy, and it's not a drama or a dramedy, so, they don't want to take all the time in the world to go through that. But maybe take out some of those gags from earlier before he goes to the Ghost of Christmas Past, just to give you a little bit more time and show them drifting apart. Because like you said, the fact that she's kept tabs on him this entire time and stayed single and waited for him, I do find that kind of unbelievable too. So it's kind of if we watch them drift, maybe we'd get more of her heart and why it was like that, but then each ghost...
It seemed like a really sudden thing to break off what had been up until that point, as far as we saw, a very happy relationship. And, they're cuddling, watching movies and stuff like that. And then all of a sudden, just because you don't go to dinner, it seemed like a kind of a poor reason for them to break off the relationship. And that's supposed to be the moment where Scrooge looks at his young self and says, why that's supposed to be his turning point when he says, I can handle people not liking me, I can handle not being popular, I can handle all of that stuff. He doesn't care, and he has reasons why he doesn't care about those things. But seeing himself give up on Belle, then that's just so devastating for him. And he even tells the next spirit, the lessons I've learned from last night are still working within me when he sees. And so he goes willingly with present, because of those experiences were so powerful for him. And so...
And it's funny because I feel like in Bill Murray's acting, we get that. Because when he comes back from the Ghost of Christmas Past and he's talking to himself as he's walking to the homeless shelter and he's rehearsing how he's going to yell at her and kind of defend himself, what you're really seeing is that those lessons are working on him. But what we didn't see in the past was that progression that led to him detaching from her and all. So, yeah. And I wish we got to see that a little bit more. And then I noticed, when we got to each ghost was shorter than the last. We got less time with the Ghost of Christmas Present than we did with Christmas Past. Which I guess is fine.
I did think it was really creative how they created ignorance and want in the story. The way they have that kind of part of... It looks almost like intestines and stuff, and that was really kind of creative. And so they have a lot of really creative production design and visual effects, I guess you might say. And that's pretty common, actually. I would say particularly future, most of the versions wouldn't spend as much time with the second two ghosts compared to the first one.
Yeah.
And so that to me is not that big of a deal, but I think they could have done a little bit more, with that. And I think that, you just need to kind of show sort of more of that transformation that he has, make it a little more believable. But it's a ton of fun. It's very funny, and it is pretty kind of violent for a Christmas Carol version. But we can't also forget that a lot of the sort of the pokes at the media are kind of now seems sort of like, well, that's sort of there. Like, I don't know,
Yeah.
his that we've come full circle with this movie. Like the how about the night the reindeer died? Like that totally feels like something
Yes.
that's on TV.
So if you were to give this movie a letter grade, what would you give it?
Letter grade. I would give it a B+.
I think I agree with that, actually. I was, up until now, I was debating in my head what I'd give it, but I think a B+ is good.
Yeah, it's just, it's got, like I said, great visual effects. It's got great jokes. Bill Murray is really fun in it. I really like the ghosts. I like how it keeps the traditional structure of Christmas Carol. You've got that, redemption. You've got the ghost. You've got Jacob Marley. I really like Jacob Marley in this. I like the Bobcat Goldthwait character. He's hilarious. So a lot of those things really work, and I think some of the emotion in the Alfre Woodard character really works. But yeah, just the relationship and the ending for me are the main sort of downsides.
All right, well, why don't you let us know, Rachel, where we can find you on the social medias?
Yeah, you can find me at Rachel's Reviews on YouTube and at 54 Disney Reviews on my blog. And there on 54 Disney Reviews, you can find a whole month of Scrooge month. Check that out. And also, I'm on all social media, the rest of social media at Smiling LDS Girl. So check that out.
Awesome. And of course, I'll put all those links down in the description below so you can check that out. Say hi to Rachel, subscribe to her channel because it is a really fun channel and all that stuff. So, Rachel, thank you so much for taking the time to do this. And it was really fun. I love talking to Christmas Carol and the Christmas Carol themed stories.
No problem, and Merry Christmas!
Merry Christmas! I love your Christmas hat too. It's awesome.
Thanks. I didn't have a Scrooge.
Awesome.
I didn't have a Scrooge shirt, so I had to wear Grinch.
But, yeah, Grinch is kind of like a Scrooge, By the end, his heart grows 3 times bigger than it was before. Thank you so much for checking out Durbania. I'm Durbin, and this is Rachel.
Bye!
Have a good one.